The Forte Keyboard Company and 3linemusic.com are sister companies that offer two very different but related products. The Forte Keyboard Company will manufacture and sell music keyboards. One keyboard will be the new, easier to learn and play Forte keyboard. Another product will be the Keytar that incorporates a condensed keyboard for the left hand, which can be played with just 4 fingers of the left hand, and a regular keyboard for the right hand. Here is the first prototype of our Keytar. 3linemusic.com will provide sheet music in a new, easier-to-read form on the internet and on mobile devices such as the Apple iPad. This will be a community site where users can bring music to be converted, and a library will be created with the goal of eventually having all music ever written available in the library. Our motto at the Forte Keyboard Company is, "More music, less effort." The Forte keyboard is a revolutionary instrument that is easier to learn and to play, and the Forte keyboard is played the way music works. The reason the Forte keyboard is easier to teach, learn, and play is for every key scale and every type of chord, there are 12 patterns to learn on the piano and only 2 to learn on the Forte. On the piano, the pattern of the major key scales is not obvious. On the Forte, there is a visual as well as a physical pattern which is easier to learn and teaches the student the true relationship of the notes. There is a change from black to white keys when and only when there is a half-step change in the pattern of the notes. You can see there is an obvious difference in the complexity between the piano keyboard and the Forte keyboard. On the Forte keyboard, notes C, D, and E are switched with notes C sharp or D flat and D sharp or E flat. All other notes on the keyboard are the same as on the piano keyboard. C, D, and E are now black keys. C sharp or D flat and D sharp or E flat are now white keys, but they are colored gray to differentiate them from the other white keys. The black sharps and flats are also colored gray to differentiate them from the black keys C, D, and E. Now all of the sharp or flat keys are colored gray. All of the naturals are either black or white. Playing chords on the Forte keyboard is just like playing the key scales. Whereas the piano has 12 different patterns for each type of chord, the Forte has only 2 patterns for each type of key scale. On the piano, the pattern is not obvious. Again, the Forte has a visual and physical pattern that effectively teaches music. Again, you can see there is an obvious difference in complexity between the piano keyboard and the Forte keyboard. Because there are so many different types of chords, the 12 versus 2 difference is multiplied over and over again. 3linemusic.com will provide music in an easier-to-learn format. The music will look very similar to regular music, but will not have key signatures, which will make it generic. This will be the equivalent to the Nashville number system of sheet music. Our motto at 3linemusic.com is, "Music Simplified." Here is the 3-line music format. Notes 1, 2, and 3 are black. Notes 4, 5, 6, and 7 are blue. Black to blue notes represent full steps. Blue to blue notes also represent full steps. Black to blue and blue to black indicate that there is a half step involved. Scales and chords will visually show in color when and where there are half steps. There is no complicated tem to learn, such as "Every good boy does fine," F-A-C-E, face. "All cows eat grass." Simple means easier to learn. Every note has the same position on the 3-line staff in every octave. There are no key signatures. The only sharps or flats will be accidentals within the music itself. The notes are now generic, and the person reading the music decides what key scale to play it in. The lines are always notes 2, 4, and 6 of whatever key scale that the reader chooses to play the music in. The lines are always notes 2, 4, and 6 for every octave. This is really just the Nashville number system with notes. This is the grand staff for 3-line music. There are no clef symbols because the 3-line staff is the same in all octaves. Do, re, mi, or 1, 2, 3, the one note is always on the bottom of the 3 lines. The spaces are odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, and 7. The lines are even, 2, 4, and 6. Just remember 2, 4, and 6 for the lines. Notice that note 7 and note 1 share the double space between the 3-line staffs of each octave. Note 7 is a blue note in the double space touching the top line of the 3-line staff below it. Note 1 is a black note in the double space, touching the bottom line of the 3-line staff above it. Also, the stems change direction between note 7 of one octave and note 1 of the next octave. The piano and piano music has taught people to think that there are 12 different key scales. It is much better to look at it as if there is one major key scale with 12 different starting points. The Happy Birthday song demonstrates that the song can be sung in different keys, but the song is the same. The pattern of the notes is the same. You simply start singing it at a higher or lower starting point. In the same way, the major key scale is one pattern of 12 notes with 12 different starting points. Here is the Happy Birthday song in 3-line music. The pattern of the notes remains the same, only the lines have been changed to protect the innocent. All other musical markings will also stay the same. There will be some very minor adjustments in stem direction. Notice that there are no cleft symbols or any sharp or flats as key signature. 3-line music is not just for the Forte keyboard or key guitar. 3-line music works well for any instrument or voice. 3-line music does work especially well for the Forte keyboard because the Forte keyboard changes from black to white keys the same way that the notes for 3-line music change from black to blue notes. What note is this? Even people who have been reading music for years take a while to figure out that the note on the ledger lines of the traditional grand staff is a D. What note is this? Most people will immediately recognize the note on the 3-line music grand staff as note number 2, just from what they have learned during this presentation, even if they have never read music before. They can also immediately see that the note is 4 octaves up. Here is the bottom A and top C of an 88-key piano in both the 3-line music format and the traditional format. For the key of C in the 3-line format, the blue note on the top line is note number 6 and is in the 4th octave down from middle C. The black in the first space of the set of 3 lines is note number 1 and is in the 4th octave up from middle C. The grand staff for the 3-line music has a large space in the middle, just like the traditional grand staff. This space is for lyrics. The bottom image on this slide shows the arrangement of the colored notes and the stem directions for the 3-line grand staff. Notice that there is a double space between each 3-line octave. This double space is what keeps the notes the same from the octave to octave, unlike traditional music, where a note will be on different lines and spaces in different octaves and will be in different positions on the treble staff than the bass staff. The top image shows the comparison between traditional music and 3-line music in the key of C. Notice that the stems of notes C and D of the bass staff point up, whereas the corresponding notes 1 and 2 in the 3-line format point down. This is the only other change after moving the lines. At the Forte Keyboard Company, we also want to create a video game similar to Guitar Hero that will train the player how to play the new keyboard as well as how to read the new music. Here is our first prototype of our key guitar. This version has the piano keybed on the bottom. We will offer the key guitar in both piano and Forte keybed options. The neck of both versions will have the condensed Forte pattern on the neck with buttons on the back to create sharps. The condensed Forte pattern allows the player to be able to span a full octave with just 4 fingers of the left hand, with the thumb behind the neck, similar to playing a guitar. The key scale selection will need to be set to the key scale of the song being played so that the 7 notes of the condensed keybed on the neck are the correct 7 notes. Other controls such as pitch, bend modulation, joystick, and key scale selection are not shown. The top image on this page is a drawing of the key guitar. The bottom image on this page is a photo cutout of the key guitar prototype. Here is our first prototype of our key guitar video game controller. This video game controller has the same keys with the same action as the real instrument. The left hand has one condensed octave that has exactly the same keys as the octaves of the real instrument. The right hand has one octave that has the same keys as both a regular piano keyboard for the key of C and the keys of one octave of the Forte keyboard, so the player can choose to play the right hand on the video game controller as either a piano keyboard or a Forte keyboard.